We wanted to do this documentary so people wouldn't have to always stare and take pictures, because we don't like when they take pictures, so they just knew who we are.
After spending 34 years sharing a single body, Abby and Brittany Hensel were officially separated on May 18, 2024. The event was widely described as a once-in-a-century medical breakthrough. The procedure spanned 72 intense hours, captivating global attention as the sisters, long regarded as a living symbol of unity, reached a life-altering crossroads. Following 18 months of complete silence, they finally resurfaced, revealing the painful and complex journey that unfolded behind the closed doors of the operating room. What truly happened during those decisive 3 days is a story few were prepared to hear. On May 15, 2024, an internal source at the Mayo Clinic disclosed that a highly classified operation had begun. Over 3 days and 3 nights, a team of 68 specialists from 12 different countries assembled for an unprecedented mission, separating 2 individuals who had lived within one body for more than 3 decades. The operation was led by Dr. Benjamin Carson Jr., often referred to as the Hand of God, for his mastery of extraordinarily complex brain surgeries. He was widely believed to be the only surgeon capable of directing such a risky and historic procedure. Every member of the team worked under extreme secrecy. The hospital was placed under total lockdown. No recordings of any kind, audio or visual, were permitted. Every individual involved signed a confidentiality agreement that would remain in effect for 100 years. Although journalists and onlookers gathered outside, access to the specialized surgical wing was strictly forbidden. The surgery began at 6 a.m. The first phase lasted more than 14 hours and focused on separating shared blood vessels in the chest and pelvic areas. Advanced robotic microsurgery accurate to within 0.02 millimeters was used to reduce blood loss. Any error, no matter how small, could have ended the operation instantly. By the 20th hour, surgeons moved on to the most dangerous phase, dividing the spinal nerve system. This stage would ultimately determine whether both sisters could survive. An artificial intelligence system known as Neuralink Assist was activated to model and predict every neural response, helping doctors avoid catastrophic neurological damage. Tension inside the operating room became overwhelming. Doctors were scheduled to rotate every 8 hours. Yet, many refused to step away, remaining at their posts for nearly half a day. Every motion was carried out with military-like precision. At hour 29, disaster struck. Ai's heart suddenly stopped. Alarms echoed throughout the room as doctors fought to revive her. Brittany, barely conscious, cried out for her sister. Those 4 minutes were later described as the quietest and longest moments ever experienced in a surgical theater. When Abby's heartbeat finally returned, the motions erupted. Some doctors cried, others knelt in prayer. Dr. Carson Jr. broke the silence with a single sentence. "We're not finished." The operation continued without pause. On the second day, the focus shifted to reconstruction. Brittany received a 3D printed artificial spleen made from experimental biotechnological materials, marking the first time such technology was used during a live human surgery. At the same time, neurological teams began retraining both brains using simulated signals, teaching each sister how to control her own independent body. These signals were delivered within milliseconds and monitored continuously using brain mapping screens and thermal imaging. Every response was carefully documented to prevent cross-reflex confusion. Hour 54 marked a defining breakthrough. Abby began responding independently to external stimuli, while Brittany maintained stable and autonomous breathing. The medical team understood immediately this was the precise moment when one life became 2. The room fell silent. Only the steady rhythm of heart monitors confirmed that history had been made. On the 3rd day, surgeons entered the final phase, separating the pelvis and reconstructing the legs. Synthetic blood was administered to prevent anaphylactic shock. Robotic grafting systems operated continuously, fusing muscle fibers using biological lasers. Artificial intelligence oversaw every step, ensuring absolute accuracy. As the clock reached the 72-hour mark, both sisters' vital signs stabilized. The steady beeping of monitors filled the room. Dr. Carson removed his gloves and said hoarsely, "It's done." For a brief moment, silence hung in the air. Then applause erupted. Tears, relief, and disbelief swept through the surgical team. The sisters were transferred to separate recovery rooms. Beneath the harsh white hospital lights, 2 nearly identical faces lay still, breathing softly. A doctor later wrote in an internal report, "They are alive and they are now 2 separate people." The total cost of the operation reached $68 million, funded by an anonymous private foundation. Speculation suggested that a major technology corporation supported the project as an experimental trial of AI-assisted regenerative medicine. The hospital declined to comment publicly. Although the surgery was complete, the real challenge had only begun. Beyond the recovery room, doors awaited 18 months of pain, frustration, and relentless effort. It was a period defined by relearning how to live, how to walk, and how to exist as individuals rather than one. 18 months marked by tears. The first month proved to be the hardest. Neither sister could move independently. Abby relied on a ventilator to breathe, while Brittany could only manage slight finger movements. Doctors observed sharp increases in their heart rates whenever one heard the other cry. Despite being physically separated, their emotional bond remained unbroken. An intensive rehabilitation program followed. Each day involved exercises focused on breathing control, muscle activation, and lifting their heads for the first time. Even the smallest movements drained their energy. Their bodies felt unfamiliar, and mentally neither had fully accepted the separation. Brittany often cried out for Abby during the night, saying she felt as though half of herself was gone. Abby, meanwhile, sank into severe depression, refusing food and repeatedly asking doctors to disconnect her life support equipment. Psychologists monitored both sisters around the clock to prevent self-harm. To help stabilize them emotionally, specialists recreated elements of their former life, familiar sounds, shared laughter, and music from their past. Mirrors were placed opposite their bed so that when they looked up, they saw what appeared to be the other sister, but was in fact their own reflection. After 6 weeks, they were moved to the rehabilitation ward. It was the first time they had seen each other since the surgery. The reunion passed without words, marked only by silent tears. Abby trembled as she reached out to touch Brittany, as if needing proof that they had both survived. Soon after, physical training began in earnest. Each morning, they wore assisted walking devices, learning how to stand and maintain balance. Every step was painful. Their bodies reacted violently as hundreds of newly formed nerve connections struggled to adapt. Abby stumbled often while Brittany clenched her lips to keep herself from crying out. Over time, they slowly began to regain control of their bodies. The therapy routines became increasingly demanding, progressing from simple movements in bed to lifting themselves up and walking toward the door. Abby succeeded in taking her first 5 unsupported steps while Brittany started exercising on a stationary bicycle. To monitor their improvement, both used personal cameras to document their daily progress. Abby continued to experience lingering effects from a 4-minute cardiac arrest. Her left hand shook slightly, and her sense of balance remained fragile. Brittany, meanwhile, required a hip brace to keep her joints properly aligned. Each training session ended the same way, with the two gently touching hands, a quiet but powerful sign of mutual encouragement. 6 months later, they were moved to an advanced rehabilitation facility. Every day involved 14 hours of training divided into multiple sessions. The instructors required them to relearn even the most basic tasks: walking, sitting, holding utensils, and sleeping. After spending decades lying side by side, the idea of sleeping alone became deeply unsettling. Many nights, Abby asked to visit Brittany's room just to hold her hand briefly before returning. Eventually, doctors approved a video system connecting their rooms, allowing them to see one another around the clock. This reduced their anxiety and helped them rest more peacefully. By the end of 2024, they were finally strong enough to step outside. A documentary team granted limited access by the hospital recorded every movement. Footage of the two women slowly walking through the courtyard in patient gowns quietly spread online, becoming a powerful symbol of human resilience. January 1, 2025 marked a historic moment as they walked independently for the first time without assistance. Doctors and nurses erupted in applause. Brittany broke down in tears while Abby softly whispered, "We did it." That simple sentence later became the opening line of a film segment shared worldwide. Soon after, they were discharged from the hospital and transferred to a private rehabilitation center funded by a charitable trust, where they began learning how to live fully independent lives. Abby learned how to drive while Brittany focused on cooking. Though each had a private room and separate daily routines, they shared a common training space. In her journal, Brittany wrote, "I have to learn to understand my body again like a newborn." Abby admitted it took time to adjust to hearing only one voice inside her mind. Even with newfound freedom, both carried unseen psychological scars. Media attention followed them constantly, yet they remained silent. Any public statement required approval from lawyers and supervising physicians. Over 18 months, they appeared just once in an internal hospital video, visibly thinner, but with eyes filled with determination. This marked the beginning of their new lives after separation. After 18 months of recovery, Abby and Brittany officially left the Mayo Clinic. When they appeared before cameras, their faint smiles could not hide the exhaustion etched into their faces. They spoke briefly, expressing their desire to begin again as two separate individuals. Abby returned to Minnesota where her husband Josh Bowling had waited faithfully. Their reunion was recorded privately, Josh embracing his wife as Brittany stood nearby, silently observing. From that moment on, the family dynamic began shifting in ways no one could have anticipated. Before the surgery, Josh had shared a life with both sisters, considered a shared husband due to their shared reproductive system. After the separation, legal questions became complex. Specialists spent months determining Abby's marital status under state law. Ultimately, Abby was recognized as the sole legal spouse, while Brittany was officially declared single, granted an independent legal identity for the first time in her life. This ruling created an entirely new reality, forcing the family to adjust. Abby and Josh moved into a small home in St. Paul. Just 3 months later, joyful news spread. Abby was pregnant. In March 2025, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Faith. The media described the birth as the second miracle following the surgery. Brittany appeared in the first photographs taken after her niece's birth. Standing slightly apart, she smiled softly, though her eyes revealed a hint of sadness. Soon, the media began questioning her own future. While Abby embraced motherhood, Brittany chose a different path. She withdrew from public attention and began her own journey. In May 2025, she relocated to California to work at a biomedical technology research center. There she met Ryan, a young NASA engineer who would become a meaningful presence in her new life. Ryan was described as gentle, reserved, and patient. In one interview, he said, "I don't see her past. I only see the person in front of me." Their relationship developed quietly, yet still captured global attention. For the first time ever, Brittany went shopping by herself. She chose a black dress, something Abby had never preferred, as red had always been her choice. That simple act became a symbol of independence. "We were never allowed to choose differently," she said in a short recording, her voice shaking with emotion. The Hensel family struggled to adjust. Their parents admitted they still instinctively called both daughters' names together as they had when the two shared one body. Their mother confessed, "It feels like I lost one child, even though both are still here." That emotional conflict lingered for months. Their youngest sister, Morgan, reacted most strongly. Unable to accept Brittany's decision to move away, she accused Abby of taking their former life. Public arguments between the sisters played out on social media, sparking widespread debate. Eventually, the family sought professional counseling to heal their fractured relationships. Facing intense media pressure, Abby and Brittany signed an exclusive deal with Netflix to produce a documentary about their separation. Valued at $28 million, the agreement included memoir rights and the creation of a multi-EP episode series. Their aim was to shape their own narrative. Filming began in July 2025. Abby appeared as a new mother while Brittany shared her journey of self-discovery. They did not shy away from pain, internal conflict, or the difficult truth that they no longer shared one life. In one interview, Brittany said, "We love each other, but now we must learn how to live as two normal people." The statement quickly dominated headlines across international media. Audiences around the world reacted with a mix of emotion and disbelief, struggling to comprehend a reality that felt almost unreal. Over time, the sisters' lives drifted further apart, eventually becoming entirely separate. Abby immersed herself in motherhood and her teaching career, while Brittany and Ryan divided their time between Los Angeles and Houston as they pursued a new professional venture. Although the sisters remained in close communication, their reunions felt careful and restrained, like encounters between longtime friends tied together by deep shared history. Their first appearance together after months apart occurred at a charity event in September 2025. As cameras focused on them, they clasped hands and exchanged quiet smiles without saying a word. The media labeled the moment the healing handshake. Journalists scrutinized every aspect of their lives, from daily habits to clothing choices, even speculating about whether they still shared a psychological bond. Despite the constant attention, both women chose silence, confirming only that they continued their nightly video calls, a routine they refused to give up. Yet behind the scenes, a life-altering truth was about to emerge. An unexpected revelation. Just when the world assumed Abby and Brittany's story had reached its conclusion, a new discovery reshaped everything. In November 2025, during a routine medical examination in California, doctors found that Brittany was over 9 weeks pregnant. Within hours, the news traveled across the globe and ignited worldwide fascination. Medical experts verified that this marked the first known case of a formerly conjoined twin conceiving independently after separation. Although Brittany's body had suffered extensive circulatory damage, tests confirmed that the fetus was developing normally. Physicians described the pregnancy as a statistical miracle. Brittany declined public interviews, instead releasing a brief statement through her representative, saying she was thankful for the opportunity to become a mother. Ryan, her partner, attended every medical appointment by her side. Images of the couple leaving the hospital hand-in-hand quickly went viral. Public reaction split sharply, with many praising her strength and determination, while others raised concerns about the medical risks involved. Unmoved by the debate, Brittany remained resolute and quiet. From Minnesota, Abby closely followed the developments and shared a simple message online. "I am proud of my sister." Those few words resonated deeply as images circulated of two women who had once shared one body, now moving toward motherhood on separate paths. Soon after, Netflix announced an expanded documentary that would include Brittany's pregnancy journey. Production crews returned to California to document her medical visits and therapy sessions, with the release scheduled for 2026. Meanwhile, Abby disclosed her decision to undergo a complete cosmetic reconstruction of her appearance. In an interview, she explained that she wanted to finally see herself reflected in the mirror, not a reminder of her past. Her intention was to establish an identity fully independent from Brittany's. The media dubbed this transformation her second rebirth. Korean surgeons revealed the procedure would exceed 10 hours and involve advanced artificial skin and microaxillary techniques. Abby prepared privately, confiding only in a small circle of family members. No images were released to the public. Together, the sisters' lives unfolded like a cinematic story, one creating new life, the other rebuilding her own. Though their journeys differed, both were driven by the same desire for freedom, capturing global attention. Eventually, they launched the New Dawn Foundation, backed by $100 million earned from film rights, books, and sponsorships. The organization aimed to support surgical research and education for conjoined twins worldwide. Its founding statement declared, "Every life deserves the chance to live its own story." Major media outlets cover the signing ceremony, highlighting calm expressions and determined gazes. In February 2026, the foundation officially debuted in New York. Abby appeared publicly with her reconstructed face, while Brittany, 8 months pregnant, sat nearby. As applause filled the room, they stated, "We lived 34 years as one. Now it's time to live for ourselves." The moment became a lasting symbol of resilience and unity. By late 2025, the media closely followed every step of their lives. Doctors continued to confirm Brittany's stable health and the baby's normal development. She was expected to give birth in early 2026 in Los Angeles, a landmark moment in medical history. The world waited. Abby pledged to stand beside her sister, saying, "We may be two bodies, but we are still one heart." Their story goes beyond biology. From sharing a single body to forging two independent lives, they transformed hardship into meaning and separation into renewal. Their journey redefined courage, family, and freedom. If you believe determination can shape destiny, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and share this video to help spread their inspiring